Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome everybody. Hopefully everybody is fine, safe and sound. We'll start the lecture for today. In the previous lectures, we have been discussing about projects, project networks, and until recently in the previous lecture, we discussed how we can find criticality of activities in a project network. We are going to further the discussion today. And in today's lecture, we will be talking about the critical path method. Actually, we started the discussion in the previous lecture about critical path method. But today we are going to see how we actually find out the critical path. In the previous lecture, we also talked about the event occurrence times of nodes or events in the AOA network. And in today's lecture, we are going to further that discussion. So let's get on with it. We are going to start the discussion with the same example that we were talking in the previous lectures. We already understood what are critical activities, what are non-critical activities. We found, we actually got the practice of the method forward pass computation, which we use to find out the earliest occurrence times for all the events. And we also use the method backward pass computation to find out the latest occurrence times of all the events in the network. Very quickly, we are going through with that. We started with such an example. At the start of the forward pass computation, we are with the first event, event number 1, and we are going to find out the earliest occurrence times of all the events. We have already assumed that the earliest occurrence time of event 1 is going to be 0, because it is the start of the clock for the project, and the clock always starts with a 0. So the earliest occurrence time written in the square form, in the square notation, is 0 for event number 1. Next, we are going to find out earliest occurrence time of all the events that are connected with 1. There are 2 events connected with 1. One is 2, event number 2, and then we have event number 3. So remember the condition that if you want to find out the earliest occurrence time of an event, you should already have known the earliest occurrence times of all the events that exist before that event. Like, for example, if you want to find out the earliest occurrence time of 3, then you should already know the earliest occurrence time of 1 and 2. And if you want to find out the earliest occurrence time of 2, then you need only to have the earliest occurrence time of 1, because there is only 1 event before 2, and there are 2 events before 3. Now, we cannot find out earliest occurrence time of 3 because the earliest occurrence time of 1 may be known, but earliest occurrence time of 2 is not yet known. So for the time being, at least, we cannot find out the earliest occurrence time of 3. So we need to find out the earliest occurrence time of 2. And it's very simple. You simply add the earliest occurrence times of all the events before 2. You add them into the adjoining activity duration. So the activity between 1 and 2 has a duration of 5, and the earliest occurrence time of 1 is 0. So 0 plus 5 is 5. Now you can find out the earliest occurrence time of 3. So what we'll be doing, we'll first add 0 to 6. 6 is the duration between 1 and 3. And we'll also be adding 0 and 5 for the event 2. I'm sorry, we are going to add 5 and 3. With 5 is the earliest occurrence time of 2, and 3 is the duration between events 2 and 3. So from that side we get 6, and from the side of event 2 we get 5 plus 3, 8, which means that the maximum of the two values is 8, and that 8 will become the earliest occurrence time of event 3. Now, which event can we find out the earliest occurrence time for? Can we find the earliest occurrence time of 6? No, we cannot, because although the earliest occurrence time of 3 is known, but the earliest occurrence time of 5 is not yet known. And also event 4 still does not have its earliest occurrence time found. So there is only one event which is the candidate for the next earliest occurrence time to be found, and that is event 4. And there is only one activity coming into 4, which is from event number 2. So very simple, you simply add the earliest occurrence time of 2 and the duration of activity, which is 8. So it will be 5 plus 8, which is 13. So the 13 becomes earliest occurrence time of event 4. Now, which event is the next candidate so that we can find out the earliest occurrence time? Is it 6 or is it 5? Closely looking into this scenario, it tells us that we cannot yet find out the earliest occurrence time of 6. Why? Because at least one event before 6 does not have its earliest occurrence time known as yet, and that event is 5. Although we know the earliest occurrence time of 3 and 4, we still do not have the earliest occurrence time of 5. So what we need to do, we need to find out the earliest occurrence time of 5. Now, 5 has 2 events connected before it. One of them is 3 and the other one is 4. And the earliest occurrence time of 4 is 13. Earliest occurrence time of 3 is 8. From event 3, the activity duration to event 5 is 2. So that will make a total wait of 8 plus 2, 10. And from the side of event 4, the total wait will be 13 plus 0, because one activity that extends from 4 to event 5 is a dummy activity, this one. And a dummy activity has a duration of 0. So it means 13 plus 0 is 13, And from this side, A8 plus 2 is 10. So which one of the values is the maximum of the two? Either 10 or 13. It's 13. Which means that the earliest occurrence time of event 5 is 13. By doing this, we are left with only one event, and that is event 6, that still has its earliest occurrence time found. Now there are 3 activities coming into event 6. One of them is coming from event 4, the other is coming from event 5, and the third one is from event 3. So what we do, we add the corresponding weightages, like 8 plus 11, then 13 plus 12 separately, and then 13 plus 1. From that side, it's 8 plus 11, 19. And from this event, it's 5, event 5, its earliest occurrence time is 13. So 13 plus 12, 25. And from this side, it's 13 plus 1, 14. So 14, 25, and 19. Which one of the 3 values is the greater one? It's 25. So we have the maximum value 25, and that 25 becomes the earliest occurrence time of event 6. So by doing this, we finally had the earliest occurrence time of event 6, which concludes at least the forward pass computation. And as a result, we have found the earliest occurrence time of all the events 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And each of them is shown on the diagram written inside a square. Is a small box. Now, we are immediately going to start the backward pass computation. And the backward pass computation, it always starts from the last event, the last node of the network. Over here, it's going to start from 6. Now, just as we made the assumption about the earliest occurrence time of the first event, which is 0, we again have an assumption, a very qualified assumption. The event 6 has an earliest occurrence time 25. The same 25 will be its latest occurrence time. And as we have written the earliest occurrence time of each event in a box, we will write the latest occurrence times of each event in a triangle, or usually they call it the delta, but we'll simply call it a triangle. And we'll write that triangle over the head of that square. So like this, that makes it a hut notation. It's nicknamed as a hut notation because after you've written the earliest occurrence time and the latest occurrence times on the diagram in a square and in a triangle respectively, it shows like a figure of a hut or a house. So the latest occurrence time of event 6 becomes the same as its earliest occurrence time, 25. Now we are going to move backwards, that is towards the start of the network. So if you want to find out the latest occurrence time of any event, you should have known the latest occurrence time of all events that follow that event in the network. That means if you want to find out the latest occurrence time of event 3, so you should already know the latest occurrence time of event 5 and event 6, because both these events come after the event 3. And if you want to find out the latest occurrence time of event 4, you should already know latest occurrence times of 5 and 6. But if you want to find out the latest occurrence time of 5, then you need only to know the latest occurrence time of 6. So at the moment, we cannot find the latest occurrence time of 3 and 4 because all the events coming after 3 and 4 are not generally known with their latest occurrence time. It's only the event 5 whose following event has a latest occurrence time. So we can find out the latest occurrence time of 5, which means that you first have to find the difference between the weightage. Like the latest occurrence time of 6 is 25, and you need to find the difference from 6 to 5, which is 25 minus 12. So if you subtract 25 minus 12, you get 13. And this is the only value. And this is the minimum value. So you'll write 13 as the latest occurrence time of 5. Now you can find the latest occurrence time of 3 as well as 4, because all the events after the 3 have their latest occurrence time known, and also all the events after 4 have their latest occurrence time known. So what if we find out the latest occurrence time of event 3? That will be, first of all, 25 minus 11, and that comes to 25 minus 11 comes to 14. And from this side, it's going to be 13 minus 2, which is 11. So from that side, it's 14. From this side, it's 11. Which one of the values is minimum? Of course, 11. So the 11 becomes the latest occurrence time of event 3. Now let's find out the latest occurrence time of event 4. The latest occurrence time of event 4 would be like 25 minus 1, which is 24, and 13 minus this one, 0, is 13. So which one of these two values is the minimum? From this side, you got 13. From this side, you got 24. So the minimum value is 13. So that 13 will become the latest occurrence time of event 4. And we already had found the lowest occurrence time of 3. Now we are going to find the latest occurrence time of event 2. That would be simple because there are 2 events after event 2. One of them is 4 and the other one is 3. And we already have known the latest occurrence times of 3 and 4 as well. So from this side, it will be 13 minus 8. And from that side, it would be 18 minus 3. So from this side, you get 11 minus 3, which is 8. And from this side, you get 13 minus 8, which is 5. So which one is the minimum value? Is it 5 or 8? 5. That's right. So the latest occurrence time of event 2 is going to be 5. Finally, we can find out the latest occurrence time of event 1. Although we already know that the latest occurrence time of event 1 should be 0. But don't jump onto conclusions. You better follow the procedure. And the procedure is that first you subtract 6 from 11 from this side. It will give you 5. And then you subtract 5 from 5, which will give you a 0. And the minimum value is, of course, 0. That becomes the latest occurrence time of event 1, as we have already known. Now, why did I say that you still follow the procedure? It's because sometimes people make mistakes in between finding earliest occurrence times and latest occurrence time. So once you start finding the latest occurrence times and finally get to find the latest occurrence time of the first event, and by chance, if you don't get the latest occurrence time value 0 as a minimum value, there will be a clear indication that you have made mistake somewhere during your calculations. So I suggest that for the last finding of latest occurrence time for the first event, do follow the procedure. Now we've got all the earliest occurrence times and latest occurrence time. That was sort of a refresher or a revision of the previous procedure that we have done in the previous lecture. Now we'll move ahead. Now we are going to find out which one of these activities is a critical one and which one is not a critical one. That is very simple idea, but you need to watch that very closely. At the end, I'll give you a chance to ask questions. Now, for that purpose, to decide whether an activity is critical or not, we simply do some condition checking, some tests. Like what test? The test is very simple. First of all, pick any one of the activities from the network, starting from the left and move towards the right, just like we did in the forward path computation. And for each activity, you already know the duration of that activity. You also know the earliest occurrence time of that activity. Events, like if the start event is I, then you already know about EI, and you also know about L subscript I. Similarly, you already know for the event J, we know capital L subscript J, capital E subscript J. Now from these values, we'll check the first condition, which is very simple. You simply check whether the earliest occurrence time and the latest occurrence time of the start event, whether or not they are equal to each other. If they are equal to each other, your first condition becomes true. The condition number 1 for critical activity. But if the earliest occurrence time or the latest occurrence time of the start event, they are not same, then you need not check the remaining 2 conditions, because it means that the remaining 2 may or may not be equal, but still this activity joining I and J is certainly not critical. So आपको सिर्फ ये चेक करना है कि क्या पहले इवेंट के अर्लीस्ट अकरेंस टाइम और लेटेस्ट अकरेंस टाइम आपस में बराबर हैं. अगर बराबर नहीं है तो बाकी 2 कंडीशंस को चेक करने की जरूरत ही नहीं, और अगर बराबर हैं तो फिर अगली 2 कंडीशंस को चेक करेंगे. तो अब दूसरी कंडीशन इज दैट फॉर द इवेंट J, check whether or not their earliest occurrence and latest occurrence times are equal. If they are equal, then you can go to condition number 3. If they are not equal, you need not check the condition 3, but you can decide that this activity is not critical. So if condition 1 and condition 2 both are clear, both are true. Then you need to check condition number 3, which is very simple. You simply subtract latest occurrence time of start event from the end event, and you subtract the earliest occurrence time of the start event from the end event. By subtracting both these values separately, if the result comes equal to the duration of the joining activity, this condition will become true. And if this third condition also becomes true, it means that the activity in question is critical. Otherwise, it's not critical. Now, I'll give you a hint. For any activity in the network, if you see that the earliest occurrence times and latest occurrence times of any of its events are not the same, that will give you a very quick decision that activity is not critical. So if you try to remember these conditions, we'll start applying them to the network that we just finished. Now, how many activities are there? There are, in fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 9 activities, including the dummy activity. And we're going to test them one by one. Now, we're going to call them activities by their event names. Like first activity is 1, 2. Means it's that activity which connects events 1 and 2. And similarly, the activity is 1, 3. That activity which connects events 1 and 3. So let's get going. Now, in the left onset, you can see the same network copied once again over here, along with the earliest occurrence times and the latest occurrence times. And in the upper corner, I've written the condition, 3 conditions of criticality. And on the right side, I've solved the criticality or otherwise for all the activities. Now, I'll still go over. The first activity that we need to check is 1, 2, the activity between event 1 and event 2. Now, for that purpose, we are going to check the earliest occurrence times and latest occurrence times of event 1. And at the same time, we are also going to check the earliest occurrence times and the latest occurrence times of event 2. Although it's very obvious now, but still we need to check it manually. Now, the event 1 has earliest occurrence time 0 and latest occurrence time 0. So the first condition for this activity is true. And the second condition, it says that check the earliest occurrence time and the latest occurrence time of this event. So they are same as well. For event 2, earliest occurrence time is 5 and latest occurrence time is also 5, which means the condition number 2 is also true for this activity. Now we need to check the condition number 3, and it's very simple. You subtract the latest occurrence time of start event from the value of the latest occurrence time of end event. End event is 2. So you subtract 5 minus 0. The result will be 5. Similarly, if you subtract the earliest occurrence time of event 1 from earliest occurrence time of event 2, that is 5 minus 0 is once again 5. So it means that the condition number 3 is also true for activity 1, 2. The 3 conditions being true prove that activity 1, 2, this one, is critical. You can take it. Yes, it is critical. So that is what I've done over here, the working over here, and the conclusion is written over here. Now we can go to activity 1, 3, this one, and let's check it whether or not the conditions become true, 3 conditions become true for it or not. So as far as the first condition is concerned, for event 1, the earliest and latest occurrence times are same. So condition 1 is true for activity 1, 3, as you can see over here, this one. Now let's check the condition number 2, which says that the AND event should also have the earliest occurrence times and latest occurrence time equal. And we do see that it's not like that. 8 is not equal to 11. So event number 3 does not have its earliest and latest occurrence times same. So condition 2 does not hold for event 3, which means we need not check condition 3 and decide over here that the activity 1, 3 is not critical. We can just put a little cross over here for our reminder that this activity is not critical. Now I'll give you a hint that will work a long way. Any activity, listen to this carefully, any activity which starts from an event or ends at an event which already has been proven false for its earliest occurrence times and latest occurrence time being not equal. It means that any activity which ends with that event or starts with that event will not prove to be critical, which means from this example, activity 1, 3 was not critical because the event 3 has its earliest and latest occurrence times not equal. So it means 1, 3 is not critical. Similarly, you need not check, but even if you check it out, you will find that the activity 2, 3, this one, it will also not be critical. Because in any case, when you check the earliest occurrence times and latest occurrence times of 3, they will not be equal. So for any case, the condition 1 or condition 2 of criticality will not hold. Similarly, if you try to check the criticality of activity 3, 5, the same thing will happen. These two values will not be same, which means that the 3 conditions need not be checked. Similarly, if you check for 3, 6, this activity, you'll still find out that this condition will be violated. So it means that any activity which ends at event 3 or which starts from event 3 will be non-critical. Like this one, 2, 3 is not critical. Similarly, 3, 5 is not critical. And similarly, 3, 6 is not critical. So there is no need to waste your time on checking the criticality of these activities. Better focus on the activities which are still to be tested, like 2, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, and 4, 6. So let's check the criticality of activity between 2 and 4. Now, the condition for start event 2, that the earliest occurrence times and latest occurrence times should be equal, is true. The condition 1 is true. And condition 2 says that the end event should also have its earliest occurrence times and latest occurrence times equal. Like 13 is equal to 13. It is once again true. And the third condition for this activity, 2, 4, it says that if you subtract 13 minus 5, and over here as well, 13 minus 5, you should get the value 8, which is the duration in between. And it holds. 13 minus 5 is 8, both the ways. So you get the third condition true as well, which means that this activity between 2 and 4 is also critical. Now let's check the criticality of activity 4, 5. The first condition holds true because the start event 4 has its both values equal, and for event 5 the both values are same, and in between the dummy activity has a duration of 0. So if the first two conditions are true, the third condition also becomes true. As you minus 13 from 13, you get a 0. So the three conditions for this activity, although this activity is a dummy activity, yet the three conditions checked true. So it means although being a dummy activity, yet activity from 4 to 5 is critical. We also take it over here. Now we've got an activity which is 4, 6. Now if you see, the first two conditions are true, like the event 4 has 13 equal to 13 and event 6 has 25 equal to 25. The first two conditions of criticality, they are equal. They are tested. But what about the third condition? The third condition says if you subtract the latest occurrence times and the earliest occurrence times separately, the result should be same, and it should be same as the duration, which I am afraid is not true. If you subtract 13 from 25, you get 11, and the duration in between is not 11. A slight mistake I made. It's not 12. So it proves that the activity 4, 6 is not critical. Now we are left with only one activity, and it is 5, 6. And the first condition is true, 13 and 13 are same. The second condition is also true because for event 6, the earliest and latest occurrence times are same. Now what about the third condition? If you subtract 13 from 25, you get 12. Both ways. So, and the duration is also 12, which means that this activity has the three conditions true for criticality, and it is also critical. And the same thing that I have been talking about is worked out on the right side over here. You can check for any activity, like we checked for 4, 6, and now we checked for 5, 6. This one. So after the workout of these critical activities, we find out that 1, 2, 3, and 4 activities out of the 9 are critical, and they are, I'll name them once again. The first critical activity is 1, 2. The second critical activity is 2, 4. The third critical activity is 4, 5. And the fourth critical activity is 5, 6. 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. These are the 5 events that make up the critical activities, starting from them or ending at them. So congratulations, you've got the critical activities and non-critical activities sorted out. You've got two categories now, critical activities and non-critical activities. Now from the critical activities, we can find out the critical path. But I'll leave that for the next video part. We'll take a little break. And in the meantime, we can have your questions as well. Right, any questions, please? जी, आप लोगों ने पूरा लेक्चर सुना गौर से, आपका कोई क्वेश्चन? ओके देन, थोड़ी देर बाद फिर मिलते हैं इन द सेकंड वीडियो लेक्चर दैट विल आल्सो बी recorded.